Welcome back to the Better Men, Better Ball Player podcast. I'm your host, Trey Cobb. I want to thank you for joining us here on our 73rd episode of the podcast, where today we get to talk to legendary Texas coach Ron Eastman from the Woodlands High School. Coach Eastman is, first and foremost, an incredible person. One of the most humble guys I've talked to now in 73 episodes. And here he is, close to 400 wins at the Woodlands. Close to 500 wins at the Woodlands. He's 482 and 155 in 21 seasons as the Woodlands skipper. He's won 14 district championships. Overall, as a head coach, he's won 640 games. Only lost 275 of them. He's had 3 state championships in Texas. He's a three-time National Coach of the Year. He's had 3 first-round draft picks. In 2017, he was the Hall of Fame class in the National High School Baseball Coaches Association. 57 All-State players, 16 All-Americans, 26 players overall in the draft. In 2006, his Highlanders were crowned the national champions by Baseball America. Just extremely humble. You'll hear it as we talk and as I'm trying to learn and ask him questions and how he does things. And this guy's been doing mental game before mental game was popular. Before people wasn't really supposed to talk about their mental game. He's been doing it for years. And just a really fun conversation. Getting from a guy who is now also talking about driveline. He's talking about Rapsodo. And he continues to learn. He continues to get better. And he also has people surrounding him that, like, he talks about how they compliment him and what he does. Very aware of who he is and what he does. And he tries to instill that into his players. As one of the best things he talks about was just how we've heard a common thing is how he tries to make kids their best pitching coach, their best hitting coach. And by doing that, you create awareness for them. And he also talks about his routines. When he's doing his mental stuff, you don't get a release routine unless you have awareness that, hey, I'm messing up. So once I mess up, okay, now I need this release routine. So he's creating that self-awareness, and you understand how great of a guy is and an exceptional leader because he talks about how he lives what he preaches. He practices what he preaches, and he does this in his daily life. So, Coach Eastman, can't thank you enough. Just like I can't thank Will Miner and the guys that sponsor us. Our Netting Pros chat family is pretty awesome, and I love being part of it. Netting professionals are improving programs one facility at a time. Netting professionals specialize in the design, fabrication, and installation of custom netting, backdrops, batting cages, dugouts, scoreboards, BP screens, and ball carts. They also design and install graphic wall padding, windscreen, turf protectors, dugout benches, dugout cubbies, and more. Netting professionals continue to provide quality products and services to many recreation, high school, and college fields, facilities, and stadiums throughout the country. Contact Will Miner, contact the netting professionals at 844-620-2707 or info@nettingpros.com. Visit them online at www.nettingpros.com or check out Netting Pros on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn for all their latest products and projects. Will's done a great job and really helps us out with all our guys promoting our stuff and getting things out there. Coach Eastman talked about getting the notes, likes the notes, and I think that was the first time somebody really talked about those. But Will takes it upon himself to also, and the Netting Pros guys, to publish our notes and to get them out there and to show people what we're doing. So I can't thank those guys enough for, and like I said, I enjoy being part of the family, the Netting Pros family. So give those guys a look. Thanks enough. And again, Coach Ron Eastman from Woodlands High School is an absolute legend, stud. He's a dude. And can't wait for you guys to enjoy it. Get your notes ready. I took a ton of them. And but here he is. Legendary coach from the Woodlands High School, Coach Ron Eastman.
He's a great guy, and he knows what he's doing. The kids really, we were eating fire and bending rebar with our throats. And I was wondering if someone was going to go to the ER. But he's kind of, I was into the mental game before there was a mental game. And then Brian, he kind of took Ken Revisa's stuff and marketed it. In fact, I talked to Revisa one year at the ABCA, and he's like, yeah, that Brian, Kane guy, because they know each other. And he learned how to market it and put it on tape. And then he went big teaching. You had to teach yourself. So it's good stuff. It's applicable to what you're doing.
Yeah, concrete, very concrete, and then so like you said, you did it a lot. You said before even Brian came around. What did Brian do to like help you increase, like what you were doing?
I think what Brian did, and through Ken Revisa and Dr. Hansen and their stuff with Heads Up Baseball, it made it more applicable to what we were doing on the field, especially routines. I've always preached it's not about what happens to you; it's about how you respond to it. And then they took they just kind of took that and ran with it in the sports field as far as how to recognize your traffic lights. And if you're in green, you're in go. You don't need to be thinking it at all. And then when you get into yellow and things start to spin out of control, then what kind of release and refocus are you going to use? I heard Joe Sato did a great job talking about that in one of your podcasts. But just the release and refocus, and how to focus on what you can control during a ball game, and then take that to the mound or take it on defense, take it to base running, take it into to the defense, to the batter's box as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, because Joel, because Joel had mentioned to me that he's in a kind of a coaching group with Brian and I think a couple guys. Are you part of that group with Joel?
I'm in one as BCA coaches, and we share a lot of information through text and through email. That's just been awesome with Coach Roof and Joe and Eric Kibler, who just spoke. So you get a lot of feedback. I wish this was around in my younger years when I was getting started. It would have been tremendous, as a young coach to have all this information at your fingertips with social media. I mean, there's a lot of negatives about social media, but man, the stuff that you can sift through and listen. And now, we could talk and nationwide, from Virginia out to San Diego and everywhere in between. There's coaches that they're sharing information, and that's the one great thing about baseball coaches that I've realized over the years is that most are not shy at all or protective at all about what they do. They're very willing to share, and I've had a lot of fun listening to your podcast in the last 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, thanks, man.
Trying to go through one a day, and this is just awesome.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Because I've found the same thing, in I've been doing it 16 years, and just through the ABCA and the different hot stoves you are, and just when you get a chance to just talk to somebody during the season, and all very willing to share. And so I totally agree. And that's why I was just like, man, like I had conversations with Brian. I've had conversations with a lot of the guys I had in the podcast, and I'm like, man, if we would just record this stuff, like this would be phenomenal, man. Like because I mean, for me, I just try to learn, and I learn from other people, and I love the networking part of it. So that's kind of like how all this started, where, that's why I was like talking to you. Like, I just want to talk some baseball to see what I can learn. Like I guess my question is to you, Coach, like, cause you said, like, I wish I had this in my younger days. So is it the networking part? Like you feel like just the group that you have with like Coach Sato, Coach Roof, Coach Kibler, is it more of the networking or just able to get information from everybody? Or is it a little bit of, because I know you've been a lifetime member of the association, right?
I wouldn't say lifetime. I was, but I've been there a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got pulled in by David Sitton. We've got such a strong organization in Texas. I think it's the second largest in the country besides the ABCA. Wow. And so we have our conference. There's over 3,000 coaches there usually. And so I was talking to David Sitton, who was a longtime coach at Humboldt High School, and David was on the board, and he asked me to come and help him out. And man, it's not a large organization like the ABCA, but the BCA is, golly, the knowledge, but also just the passion of the men who are involved with the National High School Baseball Coaches Association is it's unmatched. I mean, I really have missed that the last couple of years. with COVID, and then I had an injury a while back and kept me from moving around. But it's I guess a little of both. I mean, just the friendship and across the country, and then also the information is just invaluable. What you're gleaning from these guys, and so a lot of times now it's just some positive feedback that what we do is. I'm not as eloquent as a lot of the guys that you've had on here, but just what we do is real similar to what a lot of the people do around the country who are successful.
Like what? Let's dig into some of that, because I mean, like, I know you're being very humble, and I know how humble you are, and but like you've been doing the mental game, like you said before. Brian Kane made it pretty knowledgeable, and it's now almost like every pro team has a mental coach. I've had two of them on, the Oriole coach and a Philly coach, and then so it's kind of becoming, if you're not working on it, everybody knows, it's almost like weightlifting now. So like, what are some of those things that how you have done and what you've done really well?
Well, I think early on, I would talk about the mental game, and we would say that, how much of the game, when you talk to your guys, how much of the game is mental? And they'd give you various answers. And I'd end up saying it was 90 to 95% mental at the highest level. When you're little league, when you're 11 or 12, it's 0% mental pretty much, because the biggest, strongest kids are going to dominate. And every level you go up, it becomes more and more mental. And then recently, and this is not an original thought, but the 6 inches, I think it was Brian Kane actually who said it, but I heard somebody else say it on one of the podcasts. The 6 inches between your ears controls the 6 feet below your head. And I think what I've told my guys in meetings is that my feeling is that the mental game's about 5% of the game, but that 5% controls the other 95%. And so the emphasis, I think, where we're at in high school baseball, and we play at the largest classification in Texas. So we're a 6A program. We're a big high school. We have a lot of talent in this area. And so we need to realize a lot of times the difference between winning and losing a game is not necessarily the talent. It's about the execution. And so when you talk about routines are invaluable, we kind of take that read at the telescope approach, where we look at the whole season from afar. And, we have, I think it was Pudge that was talking about, planning out the year. But I think all of us do that. We have our off season, which we're trying to finalize right now. I think one of the biggest things for us is, we'll come more towards development, because we bought into Driveline, we bought into Rapsodo. I'm a little bit old to understand a lot of that information. Or do we stay with, the fundamentals and competition? And so I think the mental game allows you, if you can harness, I'm kind of rambling here, but if you can kind of harness the mental game, it allows you to focus on being where your feet are. I guess that's a catchphrase now, or the present moment, which is what we talk about. And when we talk about mental toughness and the ability to compete, that's very simple to me to understand. But the hard part is to try to get the guy to understand how to actually apply that in practice or in game. And so I think, I was somebody, Andy McKay, who I think is still with the Mariners.
Yeah.
He does a good job out there. And excuse me. He shared a tweet with, I'm not an a big NBA guy anymore, but it was at Giannis. And he was talking about how same thing, being where your feet are, and that's where his become so successful. But he was talking about how the past is your ego, and then your future is your pride. And being in the present moment is being humble and being able to compete and just enjoy what you're doing. And I've sent out some messages to my players about the Olympics, because if you just hear about these, especially swimming and gymnastics, but if you hear these athletes talk, they just consistently talk about being in the present moment, about enjoying what they're doing, how important the mental game actually is at that high level. Kind of going back to what you originally asked, I think routines are huge, as far as teaching in practice, in game. Again, going back to when we show up at the ball field, we tell our guy, I've been telling him this for years, when you go into the locker room, you're taking off your street clothes. You're no longer a student. You're no longer a boyfriend. You're no longer a son. You put on your uniform and you're getting ready to practice. And then I think we probably all have that line where we tell the guys, when you step across this line, it's all practice. It's all baseball for the next 90 minutes or 2 hours or 3 hours, or whatever it's going to take. And they start the ability to focus in on what they're going to do during that practice or during that game. And then after practice, they go back, and you can't stay locked into baseball 24/7. I think a lot of guys try that, but you've got to go back to being a student. And we preach being a student athlete first, or being a student first, and go back to being a good son, and go back to possibly being a boyfriend, and being a good community member. So I think the routines, and then your individual routines, whether it's on the mound, whether it's in the batter's box, whether it's defensively or base running, there's a lot of information out there on how to do that. If you're in green, if everything's going well, you don't really need to have a release. But I think the guys need to know how to release the negative, whether you're calling it dropping the brick, whether it's flushing the toilet. I remember back in 2006, it was kind of popular. I think LSU and the legendary coach there, they brought out their small toilet. So we had one, and we took it all the way to the state championship, and we take it in the dugout every game. And it was just kind of symbolic that if something negative happened, just go flush the toilet. And we've been saying, so what, next pitch, forever, and just trying to win that next pitch and staying in that present moment. So I think those are huge. The breathing, I think all of us probably work a little bit on breathing. We're trying to get better. It's one thing to learn how to breathe properly when there's no pressure on, but in the middle of a playoff game, when things start to speed up, then you have to have the ability to slow the game down. And I think that's, in a nutshell, being able to stay where your feet are, being in the present moment, whatever you want to call it, but then also the ability to slow the game down. Because I don't know how much slowing the game down is happening, in the summer and fall ball and the showcases in the off season. So you need to practice that. So when the game does speed up on you, that you have the ability to recognize that and you have something to go to.
Lot to unpack there. So so my head's spinning because this is right up my alley, and I absolutely love all this. I had a little toilet in our dugout as well, and so I guess just coming to find out, because you said there's a million ways of doing it. What ways have you found to best incorporate these things into practice?
Well, you're talking about teenagers, so you need buy-in. You need buy-in, and not everybody, and you need buy-in from your assistant coaches. And I think I've been preaching this for a long time. So I think most of the guys will understand this. Last year with COVID, it kind of put us off our game. We were fortunate to be on the field the whole season, but we couldn't meet, in a classroom. We didn't have that availability, and the masks were up the whole time. So it kind of took me out of my game, talking to the guys, before practice. But as for the offensive part of it, we try to have set routine. They have to have their routine. So when they're waiting in line, whether it be in the batting cages or it's not their turn, or when we have our group of 4 or 5 hitting, each batter has a specific role at our place. Your at-bat starts in the hole. So the in-the-hole guy's got his helmet on, his batting gloves on, and then your on-deck guy's timing the pitcher. And so I think a lot of us do that now, where you're not just standing around the cage watching it, but you really have to monitor that one. And if the guys are in their cage with their duties, I'm not sure how good a job they do that. I think the ones who really see success, they work on it in the cages. My pitching coaches, Shane Graves and Dane Mitchell, they do a really good job in the bullpen, I think, focusing or trying to get the guys to focus on their routine in the bullpen and not just not going through the motions. There's plenty of information out there now about competitive bullpens. I know you've talked about them with other coaches, working on holding runners in the bullpen, but also going through your routine and understanding what your release is whether it be, our pitchers try to get off the mound, get off the dirt, and get out of that batter's box. If you can get out of the batter's box, or at least wipe it clean or undo your gloves. If we'll do that the first 3 days, we'll kind of explain that to them in the classroom, and then we'll hit the field. And defensively, we talk about getting out of the circle. If you make a mistake, you make an error, get out of that imaginary circle. We'll actually draw a circle in practice where they've got to get out of the circle. Sometimes in drill work, we'll have them intentionally bobble the ball. They'll make a mistake. We have to make a panic play, or they make an error, and they've got to get back and refocus doing that. So I think just trying to, we have large numbers, so it's a challenge for us, but trying to get them to focus on their routines and practice. Those are just some of the ways.
I even just love how you said the purposeful bobble, but I guess the progression will be we have to talk about this, have a classroom setting. We then will make sure that you're going to be putting these things in practice. We're going to do maybe specific drills that you're going to do that. Pitcher, maybe if there's 2 balls in a row, get off the mound, get in the grass, and then go through your release. Is that kind of how you're explaining it there?
Yes, that's our goal.
Okay. But yeah, because I think that is the biggest thing. Hey, what is a release routine? How do you get rid of it? And because it's just you have those conversations with the guys all the time. It's look, man, you just threw 2 balls away. They must have hit the same spot. Arm side, missed high and arm side. You did it twice. Don't get back on the mound and do it again. I think it's just that's a huge thing, for people to realize. And just think about self-awareness. We're trying to do that. What have you found, I guess, with the players who are really good at that, and just how they are overall as an overall person? Guys who could really have a self-awareness of creating these routines, they got really good at what you're trying to teach them. Does it transfer to other things?
I think so, and I'm not going to take any credit for that. We're just trying to enhance it. But they came in. You look at Drew Roma, who was a first-round draft pick a couple of years ago as a catcher, and you're not going to find a more outstanding young man who came in and he was locked in from day one, and his routines and his focus in the classroom, on the baseball field. We just tried to help him enhance what he already had. Same with Paul Goldschmidt, who's a long-time MLB player, I think 7-time All-Star, now with the Cardinals. Paul, you're not going to find a more focused, hardworking young man than him. And so he came in that way. Jameson Taillon, who's pitching with the Yankees now, he was a first-round pick out of our place. And Jameson was – we could, in the fall, when we only had 2 coaches in the fall back in the day, Jameson was almost like our pitching coach during the fall. And we had another one, Stephen Maxwell, who ended up pitching for TCU and helping them get to the College World Series. And Stephen was also just like another coach on the field. So I think you've got those guys. Cody Howard for us last year had Tommy John. He was supposed to be our number 1. He didn't pitch for us. He's going to Baylor. He was just locked in and focused. So, yeah, I think those guys are pretty special when you have them that are locked in, and hopefully they could pull some of the other guys along with them a little bit, where they can, bring them up into that group that's going to help you compete.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, it's just great. And then I guess another question, because when you brought TCU, and we all know, Brian, because of course Brian Kane's been with them a long time. Have you found that, I guess, with all your players that you put on, have you found good places for them where, let's say the coach, let's say TCU, that seemed like it was an easy transition for your player to go there because they work so much on the mental game. They probably have some of the same language. Have you found other places like that hey, this is going to be a great fit for you because they kind of do what we do?
Yeah, I'm not finding them places, but if they're interested in those schools, I will tell them that might be a good fit.
Yeah, I just imagine it would just be such a nice way, a nice fit for them.
Yes, I think for programs who, I think that's probably for every high school program. If you've got colleges that do things similar to the way you do them, I've been told by a couple of college coaches that our guys are very well prepared for the speed of the game, so I think we do a pretty good job of preparing them for that.
Yeah, and that's like the mental game just helps them out with that. Have you ever had conversations with kids, I guess, who have gone on and said that maybe they struggled, and then you've kind of helped them remember we worked on these things, like this is what you should be doing?
There's been a couple over the years, not too many, but there's been a couple over the years that they'll come back, or the funny one is that they'll come back and they're like, Coach, we did this, and they're all excited about it. And you're thinking, well, we did that. We've been doing that forever. And
right.
That coach is just saying it a different way. Or maybe they're now their college coach. And so it makes you feel good. But Jamison Talion, who's, one of the best kids ever, and he's been through a lot of adversity with, 2 Tommy Johns and cancer, and now he's pitching really well for the Yankees. And I'm just thankful that, he's come back. But I remember him, we talked his first year in out of high school when he's a rookie ball. And here's a kid that I thought was tuned into everything we're doing. And we talked about the pillow test, when your head hits the pillow every night, did you give it the best you could? And he's like, Coach, I never really understood what the pillow test meant until now when he's at, training camp with the Pirates. I'm like, well, the light bulb may not come off with us, but it may come on later. And I've heard so many coaches on these podcasts, and that's, I think, one of the reasons you put this together, that we're not about just baseball. We're about trying to help these young men develop into young adults that are going to be good boyfriends, good husbands, good fathers, good community members, and be good people. And I think from everybody I've heard so far touched on that if you develop good people, the wins will take care of themselves. And so we've been saying that forever. And it's, again, most of these coaches that, we're trying to develop champions off the field and the championships on the field and take care of it. If you get the talent, we've been blessed with good talent. So we usually are pretty competitive.
Trying to develop champions off the field. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly why you're here, Coach. I know you're so humble, and I was like, I don't know about this. And I'm like, yes, I'm like, this is exactly why you're here, Coach. And I can't thank you enough again for having some time and talking about this. It's awesome. Oh, man. So, and you mentioned the community twice. So I guess I'm just, and I, like I said, I understand that people got to get better when you have talent. But you just take it a next step. You talk about community members. Do you in the Woodlands community there, like what kind of things do you go into the community and work? Do you do things for the community? Like, how are you kind of modeling that for your guys?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we many years ago, we sat down. We spent usually the first 3 days of school, we stay in the classroom, and so we have basically a little bit over an hour for 3 days, which we'll touch on depending on what I think is important. And I've kind of simplified it because we have our core values, which I think most people have now, who they're about. And we sat down. It was actually with Brian Kane, and he helped us do this. He wasn't here, but we had our group sit down and came up with our core values. And the overriding theme was family. And so I couldn't really figure out how to tie in family as one of our core values. So we just call it our family values. And they're real simple. And I think everybody's got some kind of area with this, but you're talking about excellence. You're talking about be the best you can on and off the field, or whatever you do, competitive, be competing and trying to teach them what being a competitor is, energy, having a relentless energy, and then being selfless, playing for the person next to you. But then we took it that next step further where, how our discussion is, how are these visible in the community? How are they visible in the classroom? And how are they visible on the baseball field? And so every year we'll talk about, how does excellence look in the classroom, or how does selfless look in the community? And it's been over 20 years ago. I asked the parents at our booster club meeting. I said, I'm looking for a way. When I first started, I took over this program, and it was already very successful, coming off the state championship. And, Mike McGilvery had done a great job. And I had been a head coach in Houston for 8 years and come up. It was a family decision, not a baseball decision. And they had opened the high school in 1996. It was brand new, and the principal called me and said, "We have a head coach, but we have a full-time assistant. If you'd like to come up, I know you're looking to get." Our boys were little at that time, and so we moved in. Then Mike, after 2000, Mike resigned, retired, and I took over. And I wanted to continue the success, but I also wanted to develop a program, not just a baseball team. And so I asked the parents at the Booster Club what kind of service, and one of the parents jumped right up the next meeting and said, "There's this group at Challenger, and Challenger is an offshoot of Little League Baseball for the mentally and physically challenged kids." And there was a guy there, Doug Brogan, who still runs Challenger in the Woodlands, and we teamed up with Doug, and every fall and every spring, they have Challenger games over at the local Little League fields that our guys show up in mass. And I think it does our guys more good. I mean, the Challenger kids are just ecstatic to see the Highlanders there. And our guys, it's a rough first step because it's a eye-opening experience when you show up with the special needs kids out there. And but COVID shut that down last year, and I'm crossing my fingers that they bring it back again this year. But every fall and every spring, that's a big ask for us that they show up over at the Challenger. We have Challenger night at the ballpark where they, we invite them out. They get to be on the field for the national anthem, and that's been our biggest. We've done some smaller service projects, but that's been the biggest one over the years is our coordination with Challenger.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I was able to do that, and you got kids in wheelchairs, playing baseball, and those guys follow them around, helping them run, helping them get around the bases, throwing the ball around in between the innings. It's just phenomenal. It's just a great experience for sure. I can't agree with. I can't love that. I heard so much even from my assistant coaches, and said I really needed that. The guys, my assistants, that would actually help too. I'm not sure how much of your staff got involved either, but it's a great thing, man. So you guys, will that be right in Woodlands? So is that like a local thing? Ours is more like a county.
It's at the local Little League. I think he draws from outside of the community as well.
Yeah.
There's a few different ones around the Houston area.
Okay.
But a lot of our students the kids at Challenger are actually special needs students at the high school.
Oh, and awesome. So
they get that connection in the building every once in a while too.
Oh, that's big time. Yeah, that's huge. Oh, that's awesome.
We're looking, they started up a group, and we fell apart last year with COVID, but it's a group at the school called Meet in the Middle, where they're trying to get students at the high school to come in once a month and meet with the special needs kids. Because we have an outstanding special needs group at our school as far as faculty and staff, and it's grown, and trying to get maybe a small baseball clinic. We were going to do it last year and then couldn't do it. So we're trying to reach out in that way. That's been something close to my heart, and I've seen a lot of great things come out of the volunteer work with Challenger.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. I think you said that as people, could also think like, well, like, man, I'm just getting started here. Oh, it's only year 5 or it's only year 3. It sounds like you came right out of the gate doing that. So you said in 2000, right?
Well, yeah, but I had been a head coach at a large high school in Houston for 8 years.
Yeah.
And was assistant for 3. So it was a big step, but it was a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a challenge to do. Right. I guess another question I have, because I did the MVP process, like as Brian would say, and our core values. And so like, you've been doing it for so long. How do you get each team to own those values? You got a new class coming in every year, the juniors and now seniors. How do they own those same values that you've had: selfless, energy, competitiveness, and excellence? How do they own it each year?
Well, I think some do better than others.
Yeah.
It goes year to year. I've been working very hard the last few weeks trying to figure out the first 3 days are important to me.
Yeah.
Because 3 hours sounds like a lot, but it's it's not really when you get into talking about what we're doing and what we're not. But I think I've really started to simplify things the last few years, the older I get, and that we're gonna have to meet each other. And usually we go around the room and introduce each other, but we're going to do, I haven't decided what yet, but do some different things where we're going to put them with, a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, and a senior in a group and find out a little bit about each other. We've done this in the past. So I think it's important that they understand who their teammates are. And last year with the masks and not being able to do a lot of the mental game and not being able to do a lot of I don't even know who my freshmen looked like, because they showed up in tryouts in mask and we ended the year in mask. And so I think getting to know each other is crucial and getting to understand who they are. And we try, there was a stigma many years ago that, the seniors could do a lot and the freshmen were the grunt workers. And we've tried to give the freshmen a lot of ownership in the program and treat them, equally, I guess you could say. But the other thing is everything is earned too. So you've got to earn. But I think earning your teammates' respect, just because they're your teammate, you still have to earn the respect. And so getting to know each other, I think, is vital first. And then talking to them about how we demonstrate that in the classroom or how we demonstrate it in the community. And I think this is a lot on me. But we have to follow up. If we give them, whether it's Challenger for selflessness, whether it's grades, the GPA, I've heard some great things from coaches checking up on grade point averages. I have one of my assistants that does a good job checking grades for the guys. And, I think sometimes it's in your leadership too. I mean, those, whether they're seniors, sophomores, or juniors, we've got some kids that are young that are pretty talented as far as leadership. We've got a junior coming back this year, and I think they have to hold their teammates accountable. That's huge. And again, we have to try to figure out good ways to model that, and a lot of them just come with it in. It's already instilled in them, but holding their teammates accountable, they're going to listen to their teammates a lot more than they'll listen to me lecturing to them usually.
Oh yeah. That peer role models are very important. Peer leadership. I guess because the reason I ask is like, my buddy, Wes Brooks, doing a lot of core value stuff. And it's like, have you ever, does the question come to you each year? Like, are these the values? Like, do we need to change the values? Does each team need to have their own values? Like, how have you worked through that, man? Like, that's one of the tough things is, guys, cause I think so much stuff is like, hey, if you're not doing this, what you do, like your advice. But for me, the consistency is really what separates, that's Coach Eastman from total, your consistency. But I think, do you fight that? Do you fight that where hey, should I change the core values up? Is it time to do that? Where have you had that conversation, and where has been that?
No, I have that conversation every year.
Yeah.
And the kids are just kind of quiet because I guess hopefully they like what we do. Because I said, this is open to discussion. This is open to change if we want to sit down and do it. And I was just thinking about that, last week when I was putting my presentation together, and it's the same thing is after we get to know each other and after we present these family values, what do we think about them? And do we need to think about modifying them this year? Because this would be a great year since last year was, I won't say a wash because we actually got to play baseball. So I was excited about that. But as far as a lot of the group and team building, that we hope to get during the season, we didn't get last year. So that's going to be something I present to them next week. We come back on Wednesday. And so probably Thursday, it's going to be focused on getting to know each other and the family values and just kind of seeing where we are as a group. This group, I think this year is a little bit more vocal. I've had some good conversations with some I've seen during the summer. And so I think if any year where we look at changing, if we need to, I mean, if you look at if you look at the four core values, I mean, and then you look at pretty much everybody in the country, they're going to have some semblance of these four. They may have more, they may have more, they may have less, and just about being a good person. So, and try to be the best person you can in all three of those areas.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. That was, yeah, as I said, I was just wondering because I just didn't know how much you fought it with just the different values and things like that. So when you get to like getting to know people, like what's some of the best ways you found like for your guys to get to know each other? Like what are some of the things that you like to do?
Well, we're not big on, we can't really spend a lot of time outside of school with our guys because of the rules.
Yeah.
And so, every state's different. So we have 55 minutes every day where we can, work. So like I said, we're going to get together on Wednesday or Thursday, and they're going to introduce each other and get to know each other that way. We have, after our 55 minutes, this is brand new last year. I think our governing body, the UIL, felt sorry for us because of COVID. And we get another hour of strength and conditioning after our baseball class.
Okay.
It's totally optional because it's after school. So we're going to work on some things there that may not be totally strength and conditioning, but a lot of competitive stuff, put them in groups, maybe relay races. Maybe basketball and maybe football and maybe fungo golf. We've toyed with the idea of finding a ropes course. We haven't done that one yet because it's the logistics involved.
And these are the ways that you like to get to know each other. So it's nothing like when you guys have the classroom session, you're not like trying to do certain little things there either. Like when they're trying to know, maybe get some like get to know you activity.
I'll pull something. I'm not real great at that. That's not my forte as far as getting to know each other. But
so you like to do it more along the lines of like your activities. That this is how we're going to get to know each other by putting them into a relay race and the obstacle course and things like that. So that's
that. And we're going to have a staff meeting with my two assistants there in the fall. What we've done in the past is we put them in groups of 7, 8, 9, 10. We've got a lot of kids this year in our program. But they have a leader or two leaders in that group, and they're accountable. So a lot of times they have met with that group once a week for 5 or 10 minutes just to check and see how everybody's doing. And so that group becomes kind of tight. And then at the end of the fall in November, we have a draft, and we have a Highlander games. I talked to Matt Deggs. So when Matt was at A&M, he was the offensive coordinator at A&M. I got a hold of him, and we went up three of my staff members. And have you ever heard Matt?
Yeah, Matt was on the podcast.
Yeah,
I got to talk to Matt 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so that's right. And so
he's awesome.
Well, you could tell by the interview. We sat in his office at A&M, and he spoke for 2 hours, and was just getting warmed up on offense. And I was like, Matt, I'm sorry, we got to drive. We got to get back. It's been 2 hours, and then he went through those issues at there and then Louisiana and Sam, and we were touch base at Sam when he was at Sam Houston State. But what were we talking about? Because I just drew a blank.
Oh, about getting to know each other, getting to know everyone, and how you're probably going to put so once you put the guys in like their groups, like some people call them boat crews.
That's what Matt was calling. He was calling them boat crews. So we call them the boat crews, and then they called them the Omaha games at A&M.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was going with that. So he had this idea, and it gave us the point total. She shared all that with us, and so our state championship has been at Dell Diamond. Which was the AAA for the Astros until this year. Beautiful facility. They're awesome up there. So we just call it the Dell Challenge. And so we'll have a draft. And so those groups will get to know each other because they're going to have to perform a skid or a dance, but then we'll have serious competitions as far as relays or strength. We change it to obstacle course. So they root for each other. So that's in November. October, we have, I think it's, I don't know how much it helps get to know each other, but we have our Halloween game, our dress up softball game. And about 3 or 4 years ago, the softball coach and I are friends, and he said, "You want to do it together? We'll do softball against baseball softball
Awesome.
game." And so the kids they get a big kick out of that, and I think it's great to support other organizations. And so softball has always been supportive of baseball, and we've done a good job supporting them. So we have our Halloween, our dress up softball game between softball and baseball, and the sub varsity sometimes play kickball because there's so many of them and just facilities. But I think that incorporates a lot of got to have fun too.
Mm-hmm.
I want, and this goes back to Kyle Drabeck we're good friends. He and Goldschmidt were on that team in 06. It was so special. And, they came back many years. High school's the best time of our lives. That was so much fun. You can just talk about a first round draft pick who's playing in the majors. And I said, well, that's my goal. I know that I want you to go on to bigger and better things in college and afterwards. I want you to be better. But I said, I want you to look back on your high school career and think you had a good time. You learned a little bit of baseball. We had a great time. And so we try to, just like I think all of us do, try to have a fun time. It can't be all serious.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. Yeah, the Halloween game's got to be a lot of fun for sure. That's a lot of fun. Just a little, I guess, little question of that. You said, I want to be clear, like, so you have your boat cruise. Let's say you had 6 or 8 boat crews, and then you put a draft together for the Dell Challenge, or does your boat crews compete against each other in the Dell Challenge?
No, the boat crew is separate. The boat crews will go through the whole fall, and a lot of that's for attendance.
Okay.
And
yeah.
So they'll have to report. We make them accountable to their boat leader, and so that boat leader is responsible for. We're trying to usually put seniors in those roles, where they're responsible for telling the coach, because attendance for 64 kids is challenging when we're trying to get on the field and get in the computer. So they'll be in those boat crews, and we'll do in the fall. We will do relays in those boat crews. We will do competitions in those boat crews. So they get to see each other in a competitive nature. Then we'll also have our October scrimmages, and then in November we'll draft. And usually it's just 4 groups, maybe more this year. We've got a big group, but we'll redraft, and the players will get to pick the 4 captains or 8 captains or whatever it is. They'll pick their teams for the Dell Challenge, and then we'll compete for either 3 or 4 days before Thanksgiving.
Very cool. Will you keep those maybe boat crews like maybe during weightlifting during your winter time, I guess beforehand, or is it mostly just for the fall?
Well, it's the same groups all fall, so we'll be together, and whether we're in the weight room or whether we're on the field, they'll be the same groups because we have for that 55 minutes. So we meet in the weight room. Our baseball field is at the original high school, which is now a junior high. So we're the only high school sport on that campus, which is kind of a good thing, bad thing. We're kind of over there by ourselves, but we're over there by ourselves. And so we don't have a lot of the resources available at one of the best high school in the state, arguably.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. I guess just the thing, because I've had this before, because I've done boat crews and things like that. When you see one boat, like, have you ever had to change boat crews in terms of leadership, in terms of teams? Like, how do you manage that? Let's say one's just not really performing well, or they have the leadership that you thought. How do you handle that?
Not really. But we don't really. They don't do a lot in those boat crews. It's mainly at the beginning. It's mainly being able to touch base with those 7 or 8 guys. Sit down maybe 5-10 minutes once a week to see how they're doing, in your group, mainly take attendance and then compete. So, no, that's the way we handle it. That's not really that big of a deal.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. Just wondering but love that. I just love it. And especially it's one of your values, this is what we do. It matches why we do it, like it matches our why, it matches our values. The boat crew just leave right into that competitiveness, being selfless within there. Like everything that you're doing it all matches, So absolutely. Super cool, man. Oh, this is great, Coach. I guess, I guess what you had mentioned Driveline and Rapsodo. Like, and here's another rabbit hole that we could go down. Really talked about the mental side of things and how you compete. We talk about in the community. But bringing back a little bit, you talk about Driveline and Rapsodo. I guess these are things that probably has changed since you started. But I guess understanding how do you use them? What value have you seen in them? Maybe like why you felt like you needed to maybe move to the Driveline Rapsodo.
Well, the simple question is I have an assistant coach who pushed me in that direction.
Okay.
He's younger and he's into the analytics. I've always when he came on a couple of years ago, he was very complimentary to me in front of a group, saying I had a growth mindset. And I never thought of it that way. It's survival. I'm not the smartest guy, and I just work hard, and I'm trying to find a way to keep an edge. And so, I think that's the case with most of us. We're just once you think you got this game figured out, it's going to humble you in a hurry. And so I've tried to stay humble, and the drive is still there. A few years ago, we tried to simplify our philosophy a little bit, and we've had some great pitchers. We've been blessed with some great talent, and our pitching coach does a great job, with those guys, and then their outside pitching coaches. And but to simplify it, in my opinion, and I may be wrong, but this game is about 80 to 85% the pitcher hitter battle. And so, and that's not an original thought. I can't even remember where I heard that. But so our goal is to dominate the pitcher hitter battle. And so that's a lot of what we predicate. Like, our defense is very simple. We don't have a lot of bunt coverages. We don't have a lot of pickoffs because we're focused on the plays that are going to happen the most in the game, which, thank goodness, is being supported now by a lot of the analytics, that a lot of the game is, we talk about not just making the routine play, but dominating the routine play. Yeah. So we really focus in the offseason on trying to get our hitters better, and then trying to get our pitchers better, and trying to get our defense better. So the Rapsodo, our one of my young coaches felt that, Rapsodo would be a good investment for us to get these guys on there. And I think what sealed the deal was we went to Baylor for a coaches clinic right before the big state convention. And I know the Baylor coaches a little bit. And we had a kid who was a freshman who had committed to Baylor before his sophomore year, and we hadn't even seen him pitch. I mean, he was he was a quarterback. He was on the freshman JV team, and it's like, what did you see in Cody that he goes, Coach, he has a better spin rate than half the guys that are roster at Baylor as a sophomore in high school. And so I thought, well, yeah, college coaches don't call us as much as they used to about recruiting with all the showcase going on. But I said, if we can have numbers where, one, we can help maybe our guy get recruited, if the college coach says, give me his numbers, and we have it. But then secondly, if we can maybe help him develop as a pitcher, I kind of lean that to my, the pitching guys. I try to stay too many cooks in the kitchen, Right. But if we can try to help them get better with Rapsodo, I think Coach Dane Mitchell, he's embraced that the last couple of years. And I think the guys, I don't want them to get caught up in the numbers, but I think I've always preached, you need to be your best pitching coach, or you need to be your best hitting coach. Yes, you can go get lessons. You need to listen to us, but you need to be aware of your body. You need to be aware of what works for you. Because in the end, you're responsible for yourself and for your success. So the pitching worked, and then we decided at the end of last spring to do the hitting. And so we haven't really used that yet. We're going to try to dive into that in the fall. I think that gives the guys, if we can use it off live hitters, maybe I was doing bat speed 30 years ago. Before, it was seriously, we would find these heavy bats and broomsticks. Yeah. And it wasn't a thesis, but I did a master's project back in the 80s on bat speed, and it worked. Awesome. So we did overload, underload. Yeah. And then, so now with Driveline, they've partnered with the Axe bats. And so we've got a little, listen to Dallas Baptist head coach. He's one of the best out there.
Yeah.
And it's, so we've got, I'm not really kind of wired into one system. We kind of improvise, but we do the overload, underload with the heavy bats. And, your goal is to hit the ball hard, and, the faster you swing the bat. So with the drive line, I think the hitting drills have been just to see that in action. And, I'm a Drive Line Plus member, so I get some benefits there, but to see the videos and some of the stuff we've been doing for a long time, that's a good thing when you get some positive feedback that you're doing the right thing. And then the pitching end of it with the plyo balls, we've kind of, we talked about, we're not velocity builders, but we do believe in long toss. We've always believed in throwing. And so I think, if the guys are stronger and they see results, you just got to be careful with their arms.
Mm-hmm. No, that was awesome. That was no rambling. That was great. And I was thinking just the amount of arm care, like the things that we do, because you hear that a lot, guys like, oh man, you got to do so many things. And I don't know if it's so many things. And Coach, I forget which coach, but it mentioned, it's just like, Coach Alexander, just from Ohio. I'm not sure if you know Ryan Alexander or not, but Ryan just mentioned, just how, you don't have to do them all, but you might find one, like maybe the reverse throws, you might love that drill for the plyo drills, like, and then you can do it. You don't necessarily do all of them, but if the kids if we are able to show them, and say, hey, this could work for you, and then they find what does and what doesn't, because then it goes right back into what you're just saying, and I have it in all caps. You need to be your best hitting and pitching coach, and that's been a telltale sign of all these great coaches that I've been fortunate to talk to, and that's one of the things they show. We're trying to do is help them become their best coach. And I think that's what you're trying to do. Like, here's all these tools, and we're going to find the best. Because, like, I'm sure you got kids who love the Rapsodo, and I'm sure you got kids that don't like it and they don't understand it, or they don't want to, But at least for that other kid that really likes it, now he found a way to get better and get better faster.
No, I agree. I've always been like that. I've always tried to expose them to as much as we could in the fall. And then in the spring, then we'll have, when you hit, there's going to be at least one station where, you get to, whether you want the plyo balls or the short bat or the long bat or the heavy bats, if in season, or what drills you want to do with flips or a machine, you may have to do what we're doing with our 2-strike station and our hitters count station and our situational station. But give them the opportunity to continue doing what they want to do, what works for them. And I agree 100%. We're trying to give them ownership, especially when they get to be juniors and seniors, that they know what they want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that ownership piece is I think, for me, because I know we talked earlier about, like I said, advice because I just thought it was so unique, because I know, you are this constant learner, but I think so many of us, and a lot of the guys that I get to these are veteran coaches that just love these conversations. So, like, and that's when I still want to talk to them too, because I think as a younger coach, we talked about those guys all the time, like, you should be doing this, but like for the veteran coach is, how to stay consistent, or how do I stay where all of these things stay sharp, or my fundamentals, or how do I stay, like you said, how do I keep surviving, and I think that's so unique. And, I don't know. I guess I just thought that was just unique talking to you of like how, cause you're like I said, you're so humble, but like you still stay so sharp, and you really do, coach. And just even talking to you, it's really cool to, have a guy of your stature and your resume to still talk about Rapsodo and getting in a drive line and what you guys are doing. So, is that something that you said you've always done? Like, you just kind of stayed ahead of like what you've always, kind of looked at what the next thing is?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm becoming more so. I think a lot of us, talking to Joe Sato and some of these guys, that we wish we would have known a lot of this information 20 years ago. But you go to the BCA or the ABCA or our locals or our state organization. And, I've always been one of the guys that I like to sit and listen. I like to learn. And during the summer to stay sharp, I've got my routine. And whether I'm either pulling up my laptop and I'm watching an ABCA video, in the morning after my quiet time, or I'm pulling out the podcast recently. I wasn't really a podcast listener until this year. And, like everybody says, you're mowing the field or you're doing the dirt work or you're just working out over there. You can listen to podcasts. I'm a big reader. John Gordon books, we make my guy. They probably hate it because most kids don't like to read. I don't know. There's not too many people that like to read it at all anymore, but I make them read a book and then we'll come back and talk about it after, during the summer. And John Gordon books, the Heads Up Baseball 2.0, Ken Revisa and Dr. Hansen. That's the Bible of the mental game there. And just trying to stay on top. We talk to the guys a lot about mind, body, spirit, you're getting better a little bit of it every day. Challenging yourself physically, your mind, and spiritually, no matter what your spiritual beliefs are and your soul. And so I try to practice what I preach, and it's easy during the summer for me. I get up early and I've got a routine, and I'm able to get my quiet time and my whatever little workout I can do it with my physical condition, and then watch a podcast or watch a video or listen to a podcast. And usually I'm pretty good by about 9 or 10 in the morning, and then I can start my day. Yeah. Now we start school on Wednesday, so it's going to have to challenge me in the evenings.
Oh, so you're an evening guy. You like do that?
I'm a morning guy. Then I usually fade early. So my wife and I both, because she's a nurse and I'm a teacher, so our school day starts at 7.
Wow, yeah, okay, okay.
And so I'm not that. I'll get up at 5:30, but I'm not a 4:30 guy, and because I fade early. Okay. So I have tried that. So we'll see. Keep my routine, but just try to stay mind, body, spirit. Try to practice what I preach. I'm kind of the grandfather, father like to the guys. I'm preaching to them all the time. I'm in double digits with basal cell skin cancer, and so like most outdoor coaches, and so I'll preach to them, do my PSA on sunblock, and I'm doing the right thing, and diet and hydration and reading and all that kind of. They get that from me daily.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite? What's been your favorite book so far? Like, what do you think of the best book so far for your team's been?
Oh, I don't know. I've had a lot of good feedback on some of the stuff. The John Gordon books, The Energy Bus. I had a kid who he said it's the first book he ever read.
Oh, that's great though.
And then he went to college in baseball, and I don't even think he read it with us, but he went to OU. And he's like, this is the best book I've ever read. And then we're reading Training Camp by John Gordon this year. I tell you, I just so to answer your question, John Gordon books.
Yeah, because they're nice, easy reads too, but such great great message.
Josh Medcalf. I don't know if you've read Pound the Stone. Or chop wood, carry water. Yeah. About the process. We talk a lot about the process and about staying and not our head or not looking behind, but just focusing on, one, which our mantra is one pitch at a time, just like a lot of people is. But we read those books, and I tell you, I heard him on a different podcast. I think I've listened so much. I think he was on one of the other, not yours, but he's now a hitting coach for the Angels. Dylan. I didn't want to try to pronounce his last name, but he wrote a little book called The High School Baseball's Hitter's Handbook. Yeah. And I just got it in the mail last night, and I was looking through it. This may be an awesome read. I don't know if you come in touch with that book?
No, I haven't. But I can honestly speak to Training Camp. I did that one too. Like if I had one, like that was just phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, those are great because they're fables. Yeah. With a lot of meaning. The John Gordon, that's why I like them. They're easy reads. I don't want to challenge the kids with something they're not going to read. Right. We have a lot of high level guys in baseball, AP students, and their English, their workload and their summer reading, that's pretty heavy. So if they got all summer, you got 2-3 months to read a short book. That's pretty easy. So the John Gordon books seem to be pretty good. And then the MedCap books are as good as well.
Yeah, I just got Deg's 15 to 28 too. I just got that. I think that was good. I think that would be possibly another one for the team. But yeah, I think John Gordon, like just for the fact of they're just nice to get through. I mean, honestly, you're not asking a ton because of just how easy it is to get through them. Compound Effect has been another really, really good one. I know Schlossnagel, TCU. He does that one almost every year. He just loves it. He just loves that one too, because it's about the little things, it's about one step at a time, one pitch at a time. If I have these little daily routines, and that's what it comes down to. Those little daily things that I do all the time, end up making a big difference. So that was a really good one as well. So
that would be, we, like everybody else, we just try to get a little bit better every day. That's the goal.
Yep, and that's what the Compound Effect's about. So it kind of reiterates that, especially if you might need more of that 1 year, So I know that was great. So like, when did you start doing that? There could be a coach and like, wow, I'm only in year 3. I don't know about putting a book. Like when was it time for you that you felt like, man, we could use a book?
I think we've been doing it for about 12, 15 years now. Oh, okay. I'm not sure when, but I give them their summer homework. It's real simple. It's live your family values. And be able to, take a test when you come back over. And it's real simple. It's 4 family values, but you'd be surprised how many kids brain fart and don't do anything and read the book. And I used to give them a quiz over the book. Now I ask them to give me a 1-page reaction paper. Okay. So they'll turn into paper. I told them to watch Miracle, the hockey, the Miracle this summer, and look for family values in Miracle. I think there's some great stuff in that book or in that movie. Admiral McRaven's speech. I don't know if you've ever heard that one. Make your bed.
Oh, you mean Make Your Bed? Make Your Bed. Yeah. Great one.
So I found that online one time and I printed it out, and they had to read that. And so when he gave his speech at UT, and that's pretty good. I didn't do that this summer. I did watch The Miracle instead. But I try to give 2 or 3 things to do. We talk about habits a lot. Used to be a big goal person, setting goals. And now I think, reading some books out there and just talking to people, and just makes sense that, habits are, that's how you accomplish your goals. It's good habits. So we'll hit them when we come back to about what are your habits going to be this fall? What do you need to change? What do we need to get better as a team, but also you as an individual? And what are some of the habits that you have? It could be simple as, are you going to read 10 minutes a night, or get out of bed 10 minutes early, or give up drinking carbonated drinks, and drinking more water, things like that. So we talk about habits a lot with them. And
that's interesting. That's interesting. So, could we dive into a little bit more of that? Like, just like how, because I'm just wondering how you would do that with kids. Like, is it a matter of like you try to mac with them? Like you say, like, I know you said, because instead, what I'm trying to think is like, okay, well, why would I have this habit? Because I probably should have some type of thing I want to get to. Like how do you, being a teacher that you are, how do you take them through that steps to help create a good habit?
Well, it has to be, I wish I could remember the terminology, but it's got to be something you're going to follow through. Like, and I can't remember the book I read. It's a little bit high level for the kids, a little bit high level for me too. But about that, it's about forming habits. Okay. And, you don't get to 100 push-ups a day by trying to do 100 push-ups. You do 1 push-up, then you do 2 push-ups, and you develop. It's not about the number. It's about just doing it, or putting the book you want to read, put it in on your bed. And so, you've got to pick that book up to get in bed. So it's there. One thing I do challenge them with all the time is, you all have goals, whether it's to be a lawyer, doctor, get a baseball scholarship, go to play Major League Baseball. They all have that dream. Well, look at your habits. And sometimes we'll have them take a sorry, my dog's being annoying here.
It's all right.
Look at your habits and do they reflect your goals? And if your habits reflect your goals, then you're good. But you may have to modify, your goal, lower your expectation. If you're not in the weight room 3, 4, 5 days a week, and if you're not hitting or you're not throwing, then you may have to lower your expectations of being a Major League Baseball player. Or if you want to get into this level of academic institution, if you're not studying every night, you're not going to get. So either raise or lower your goals, but also look at your habits, your actions daily. And so one of the things we'll do when we come back, and we didn't follow through on this last year, but have them fill out their weekly schedule, and so they know where their time is going, whether it's going to social media, whether it's going to baseball. A lot of guys when they start monitoring, just like when we take a diet log, right, or a TV log as adults, look at where our time or our budget, where our money's going. The kids look where their time is going, and I think that's had an impact on them in the past, that they're wasting too much time. They need to be a kid. They need to, and we stress that to them. You need to enjoy life, be a kid. But also, if you've got certain goals you want to attain, then your habits should reflect those goals. And I think a lot of these guys who succeed at the highest level, they've got that figured out.
I think that schedule is awesome. So they literally will plan out a day and say, hey, here's what my day is. Here's what my day looks like, or you're a week.
I think what we're going to do this year, I've done it a couple of different days. I think what we're going to do this year is I think I'm going to have them the first week of real school, because the first 3 days are kind of just getting to know everybody. Yeah. But then that following week, I think I'm going to have them take a log and just log their week. And what did you do today? How many hours did you spend in school? Because the school part's easy, and then just log your week, and then we'll take a look at that and see where your time is going. And I think where I'm right now is they're going to have them turn that in, and then eventually they're going to fill out their schedule. Whether we can come up with, I'm not a computer person, but come up with some kind of spreadsheet where they just fill it in, or maybe hard copy where they just write it in and write in what their expected schedule is. So they know where their time is going. Time, we're trying to teach them time management too. They're going for right now, their parents have been taken care of. When we go to college, and that's going to be a non-issue. And especially if they're an athlete, that's doubly challenging to be a student athlete at the next level. So if we could try to teach them to be a little bit a better time manager, I know we don't have a lot of influence over them like college coaches do, because they're not, they still have their home life. But I think the parents appreciate that too, when they know we're trying to work on time management with them. And so first of all, they need to know where their time's going, and they need to maybe be helped in making adjustments on where they need to be spending their time. Once they find out what their workout schedule is going to be, their classroom load is, and things like that.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. That is so good. I think it's good for anybody. I think it's good for anybody right now. Almost like a check-in, even with yourself. Wow, that's good. I was even thinking to myself, man, I might even just do that myself right now, just to kind of see where I'm at and see where I want to go.
I agree. That's what I try to. I do it myself. Every once in a while, okay, well, what do I want to accomplish, and how are my habits? And so I have to correct some of my habits. Whether if it's keeping me from getting to where I want to be.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Log your week first. We'll reflect, and that way they can see where their time is going, and then they would fill out their schedule based off of their habits.
Yeah, I got that idea just from, I don't know, many years ago. But also, people, when they're going on a diet, you journal your food intake, or you journal your budget, where your money's going, and then you go from there. Yeah. You need to have an idea of where your time is going.
Well, again, that comes back to the self-awareness piece too. I think that's what you've been really good at. What you've been talking about, the self-awareness piece. They're becoming their own coach by seeing here's what I do. Another thing, I think it's why you like the compound effect too. They do a lot of tracking like that. It's a lot of that, and where you track kind of your daily habits and what you're doing. So it's very similar. I think you'd really like that. Darren Hardy's the author there. But yeah, that is really, really good. And then they can track those daily habits and kind of create maybe a new one, and to help fill their goals. So that's great. So let's say, if a kid, let's say, I guess, he wanted to be first team, all conference, want to hit over 400, then he needs to make sure that that habit of hitting for 30 minutes or hitting for an hour or taking 100 swings, needs to be part of his daily log, his schedule.
With a purpose. I'm a big intent person.
Me too.
It's not just about taking 100 swings or 100 ground balls. What's your intent? I think all of us tell these guys, I'd rather have you take 10 ground balls at 100% intent, even if you're not throwing, 4-second feet, but rather than 100 ground balls with 50% intent, because then you're just getting sloppy.
Right.
And so I think probably all of us coaches who have some degree of success are preaching your intent, whatever word you use, but what's your intent? That they hear that from me a lot. So no, I agree 100%.
And now it's like, and then now you have the Rapsodo, it'd be like, okay, I'm going to hit 10 balls at my 90% exit velo, to the back of the screen. You know what I mean? Like there's this very specific, goal that you can say that you're trying to create. So, okay. Yeah, that is super cool. Well, Coach, I mean, here we are. Well, look, hour and 20 minutes and you just, you just not a talker, can't do not your forte. Here we are. We've been on the call for an hour and 20 minutes. I'm going to respect your time. I mean, I can't thank you enough for everything, man. It's been, so good. So good.
I appreciate you very much. I appreciate you doing this. Like I said, I've been the last probably 3 weeks, I've been just eating this stuff up. This is so good. Listen to all these coaches and taking notes. And I appreciate you taking notes and putting them on the site too. That's been great. I got to figure out a way to print those off.
You're welcome. I'm glad to do it. And it helps me learn. Like, honestly, like I couldn't sit here, and this is how I am with my game. I got a game card and I got to take notes. Like first and third, like we got to get better. Like this backhand play, like I have to write it down, or like I just have to write it down. So it's just the way that I learn.
No, I agree. And if there's any, I'm not a big advice giver, but to young coaches, I think I've heard a couple of coaches say this when we first started out, we were just trying to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to do everything. You hear this great drill or this great, and you try to do it all. And I think one of my strengths, I know my strengths, I definitely know my weaknesses. But one of my strengths is trying to figure out what works for our guys, what works for our program and what fits them. So you have to sift through that. And I think don't try to do it all. But I think there's just gold in these podcasts and in the ABCA videos and the Barnstormer videos that they're just invaluable to, if they're invaluable to an old guy like me who's been through this for 38 years, I have a young former player who just got his first coaching job out of Oklahoma State. It's like you need to join and you need to start listening to these podcasts. Right away.
So
I sent him your podcast.
Oh, thank you, man. That's awesome. I appreciate that.
So hopefully he'll follow through. He's a little overwhelmed right now, but
wow. Well, when you come out, I'm sure he's going to listen to that one. That's for sure. That's for sure. Well, so if somebody does want to reach out to maybe email, what's the best email? What's the best way to get in touch with you, Coach?
I think it's the one you have, Eastman at conroeisd.net.
Very helpful.
Well, I appreciate you, Trey. Thank you very much.
Coach Ron Eastman from the Woodlands High School. Can't thank him enough for all the wisdom he shared. Touching base with us about all his mental game stuff. Again, the mental game things he's been doing before mental game was even part of the game. And from his red lights, green lights. Red lights is when the game is speeding out of control. The game is getting too fast for you. You have to release. You got to stop, slow it down, breathe. To get back to green lights. Green light is it's good to go. You keep the gas down, keep rock and rolling. Everything's good to go. And you have to have the self-awareness to be able to do that. And that's where the routines come in place. The breathing comes in place. And that's where his, creating awareness, the things that he does within the program to help kids have ownership and create more self-awareness so they can make those changes. Loved his routines of just when you come into practice, you're taking your clothes off. When you get changed into your baseball, like you're probably becoming a baseball player, you're letting everything else go. And then when you, on the opposite end of that, when you leave practice and you put on your street clothes, you're now the student, you're now the son. and just the teaching in that and what that does, even for us as baseball coaches, as fathers, to do that when we come into the house, to literally just go through that routine and how better that would help us. And I'm sure, like I said, Coach practices what he preaches. And so he's been on my just love how they need their classroom sessions. They're mapping it out. They're working in the community. They have their family values. They call them their family values, their core values. Just little things like that, like we said, at the end he found out what works for his guys. And works for his guys, he calls them their family values, not their core values. Love the summer homework. Live out your family values. Live them out. See where they're going to be. Watch this movie. Find out the family values and how they're portrayed in that movie. How they work for us. Great little things. Very applicable to what a lot of people do in all things. So again, Coach Eastman, can't thank you enough. Appreciate you guys for sharing. Just like that, he talked about sharing with his assistant coach. Guys that's got new jobs. That's exactly what this is for. That's exactly what this was made for, is just to continue to grow the game from coach's perspective, like Coach Eastman. Guys who are, it's not about them. It's about the game. It's about the players that we're going. It's about leaving it better than we found it. And knowing that the game teaches us so much more than the game. It prepares us for things when we do leave. We know we're teaching guys, we're getting things out there they're probably not even going to understand and appreciate when we have them. And that's okay, because it's preparing them for when it really matters. And that's going to be in their life. So again, thank you for those people that continue to support. Please keep sharing the podcast with everybody that would possibly help. Feel free to send me any feedback at tradetcobb@gmail.com. Give Will Miner, those guys at Netting Pros, a look. nettingpros.com. Check out the Netting Pros family, all the other guys, part of the family chat. It's just really great to be part of that family. And I'm really happy about it and proud of that. So until next week, keep getting better.